G'day fellow flight simmers and random YouTubers. Well, I've got my chai tea ready and today I want to talk to you about something that is fairly simplistic really, but you hear a lot of people muck it all up, and today I want to sort of set the record straight, and we're going to talk about CTAF procedures. And so what's so special about, well, CTAF, as most people would know, means Common Traffic Advisory Frequency. And what does that mean? Basically, it means that you are responsible, as the pilot, you are responsible given your own traffic information. Unlike, for example, where you got the Metro Class D operations like Bankstown or Moorabbin or Jandakot over here in the west, which basically they give you traffic information. You are responsible for giving your own traffic information. So that's what the CTAF is. So without further ado, let's get stuck into it. Do you like that transition? Okay, so what is a CTAF? Okay, CTAF is the frequency on which pilots operating at a non-controlled aerodrome should make positional radio broadcasts. Frequencies are generally not monitored by air traffic services. Okay, so what does a non-controlled aerodrome mean? Well, it can mean two things. It can mean, one, there is no traffic service, or i.e. there is no control tower at that particular aerodrome, or it means that the tower is there but nobody's in it. In other words, they've closed up for the day. And an example of that is obviously a lot of the Class D towers, like over here in Jandakot. It operates certain hours, and after that everybody goes home. And so if you want to fly outside of those hours, then there's a specific CTAF frequency that you need to go on and make certain radio calls. Okay, so that's really what a non-controlled aerodrome is. Okay, where you have a number of non-controlled airports in close proximity, a single discrete CTAF may be allocated for those airports. Okay, so I'll show you that later on. I'll bring up a VTC chart and I'll show you how that sort of that works. And also the responsibility for collision avoidance and sequencing lies entirely on the pilot in command. That really makes sense because there is nobody controlling you. There is no ATC service. Okay, so that's basically a summary of what the CTAF is, responsibilities, and what really, as a CTAF, mainly most of the responsibility lies with the pilot. Okay, correct radio procedures. And this is not something that I thought of. This is as per the Aeronautical Information publication. And a CTAF call should be as follows. This broadcast format is the location. It could be, Jandakot, could be Bankstown, could be Ballarat, whatever. So it'll be Ballarat traffic or Jandakot traffic, the aircraft type, whether it's a Cessna or whatever, your call sign, your position, level, intentions, and then Ballarat or location. Now, a lot of people end up saying location traffic. It's important that your first part of the thing is, for example, Jandakot traffic, Cessna 172, November Foxtrot, India, 10 miles to the north, 4,500 for full stop, Jandakot. You don't say Jandakot traffic. Okay, so that's basically the end of the day. That's the basic format, and we'll talk about specific examples in just a little bit. Okay, so that's the basic format for making a CTAF radio call. Okay, now a lot of people are sort of confused. When do I need to make a CTAF radio broadcast, and when don't I? Well, really, at the end of the day, there are times when you always must make a CTAF report. And there's 3 instances where making a CTAF broadcast is mandatory, i.e., first one, before takeoff or during taxiing. So an example of that, Parkes, which is what's famous for its radio satellite, is a typical CTAF airport, and you'd say something like Parkes traffic, Cessna 172, November Foxtrot, India, taxiing runway 30, 4 circuits, Parkes. So that's the first instant where you've always need to make a CTAF. The second one is if you're inbound to an aerodrome and at least 10 nautical miles from the aerodrome. Now, of course, if it's a high-performance aircraft, you need to do it a little bit further. I'd say 15 nautical miles, but at least 10 nautical miles from the aerodrome. So, for example, a typical broadcast would be Parkes traffic, Cessna 172, November Foxtrot, India, 10 miles to south, inbound through 4,500, estimating circuit at time 35 Parkes. So if you're inbound, you tell them where you are, either 10 miles or 12 miles, 15 miles to the south, or what you intend to doing, the level you're going, your level you're descending through, or your level, and what time you're estimating the circuit. So that's for an inbound report. Okay, and the other time where you need to make a mandatory call is if you're overflying or in the vicinity of a non-controlled aerodrome but not landing at. So an example of that would be Parkes traffic, Cessna 172, November Foxtrot, India, 10 miles south, 4,500, overflying, estimating overhead time 26. So they're the times when it's always mandatory to make a CTAF radio call. Okay, so what are there are other times, of course. So what are those other times? It's not restricted just to those 3 times. The other times are totally dependent on traffic. So if there is no other traffic, then these are the only instances where you need to make a call. Now, if you hear other traffic or other call, then there are other times you need to make a call. And then these are calls when there is other traffic. You can hear other traffic in the vicinity. If you're entering a runway, so if you've heard some guy, reports base, or then reports base for runway 30, let's say, then you need to say, if you're entering that runway, you need to say something like Parkes traffic, Cessna 172, November Foxtrot, India, lining up runway 30 Parkes. Now, if there is no other traffic, you don't need to make this radio call. Okay, so it is good to do it, and I guess a lot of pilots err on the safe side of safety. It's probably better to make more radio calls than less, but it's not obligatory. You don't need to tell people you're entering if you don't hear any other traffic. If you do hear a traffic, well, obviously you do. And the other time is if you're joining the circuit. So if you hear traffic, you've got a guy on, for example, making a straight-in approach, and you think, okay, he needs to know about me, then you would say something like this: Parkes traffic, Cessna 172, November Foxtrot, India, joining downwind, runway 30 Parkes, because he needs to know about you. Now, also, that's another thing too, with the CTAF, with non-controlled aerodrome, you as a pilot is completely responsible, not only being separated or staying separated, but also sequencing as well. So you could see that, okay, you can see a guy making a straight-in approach, okay, I'll be number two. I'll extend maybe downwind, and he needs to know that you're going to be doing that. So yeah. Now the third time is, of course, you're making a straight in approach, and you're not less than 3 nautical miles from the threshold. So, in other words, Parks Traffic, Cessna 172, November Foxtrot India, 3 nautical miles finals for straight in approach, because they need to know, other traffic needs to know, other traffic in the circuit or about to join the circuit need to know about you, that because don't forget, a straight in approach is probably the least preferable way of joining a circuit. There are many ways to join a circuit, i.e. the most common one is downwind at a 45-degree angle. That would be the most common way. However, circumstances don't always dictate that. There are times when you need to overfly and you join crosswind, or you join base, or from overflying, descend down to downwind, and then join that way. And also, of course, the fourth time is when you're joining base leg. So, of course, Parks Traffic Cessna 172, why should you be saying base leg? Well, you never know. There could be someone lining up on the runway. So he needs to know, there's a guy on base leg, is, not far on. So, yeah, so it would be something like Parks Traffic, Cessna 172, November Foxtrot India, joining base, runway 30, Parks. Oh, well done, Luke. Yeah, congratulations. Well done. How did you find your S3? A bit taxing, was it? A bit sort of stressful? I hope to see you in controlling. Okay, so that's the fourth time. So and the list doesn't end there. Okay, you can see during an instrument approach, don't forget, a lot of people think, CTAF's only for VFR. Well, no, CTAF applies to, if you're an IFR, because it's a CTAF doesn't mean you can't file IFR. So you can see during an instrument approach, either when established at the final approach fix or when commencing a mist. So you'd either say, Parks Traffic Cessna 172, November Foxtrot India, conducting mist approach runway 30, tracking to the east or west, climbing to 3,900 Parks. Or if you established at the final approach fix, it'd be something like Parks Traffic Cessna 172, November Foxtrot India, established runway 30 for a full stop, Parks. Or, so something like that. Yeah, and it has to be clear. Try to make it clear and concise. So anybody listening is say, okay, so there's somebody at the final approach fix, and he's an IFR, so I've got enough time to get on the runway, take off, or no, I'll be waiting for him. And of course the other time is once clear of the active, which makes sense, of course. I mean, there could be a guy who's turning base, he's made his base call, and you've landed, he needs to know when you're off the runway. So Parks Traffic, something like Parks Traffic Cessna 172, November Foxtrot India, clear runway 30 Parks. Now, a lot of people, as I said, IFR aircraft obviously on the CTAF frequency as well. So the IFR aircraft, if you're flying IFR, you should use terms that will be understood by the VFR. So you don't say something like, Parks Traffic Cessna 172, November Foxtrot India, IFR, joining RNAV approach runway 04, because these VFR aircraft say, well, what the hell is that? They got no idea. Well, he's joining the RNAV, but where in the hell is he? Something that would be more correct would be something like Parks Traffic Cessna 172, November Foxtrot India, IFR 10 miles north, inbound on descent through 4,200 for instrument approach, runway 04, estimating circuit time 36 Parks. Now, I know that's a lot to take in, but it tells other VFR aircraft what the hell, where you are. And they know that, okay, he's about 10 miles and he's inbound and he's at 4,200. So, and he's going to be estimating that circuit time's 3.6. Now the time is 3.1. Yeah, I've got time to taxi, on runway, take off. So, so that's something. Yeah. So always be mindful that if you're flying IFR and you're joining or you're landing at a CTAF aerodrome, you've got to let other VFR, because most of the aircraft operating will be VFR, give them meaningful sort of traffic information. Okay, so that's that. I just want to show you, while we talked about, now looking at this VFR, this is the VTC for Melbourne, and you can see, you think, well, what is the CTAF frequency? There are plenty of, you see here, Rowsley Brooks Landing, that's the CTAF frequency. And remember I said that if you've got two CTAFs in close proximity, you have a look at here, Lilydale and Coldstream, because they're in close proximity, you see they share a common CTAF, 119.1. Okay, so that's how you find out if it's a CTAF. And up here, I think there's another one up here, I'm not sure, Kyneton. You see Kyneton 119.0. So yeah, so be aware of that. I think hopefully you can see here once again, Riddell and Penfield, they're close to each other. They're on 121.6. And be mindful, let's say if I take off from, once again, Romsey as well, 121.6. So all this area is covered by that CTAF frequency. So I'm off flying around in this area. I just have to worry about one frequency. And don't forget, let's say, for example, you take off at Kyneton and you want to come down to Lilydale, and you want to think, well, as part of your VFR flight planning, you go, okay, I'm going to follow the highway, and then from Mount Macedon, I'm going to shoot over to Romsey, okay, because I can see the town of Romsey. You've got to monitor that CTAF 121.6. Now, I know I'm not sure exactly how far the Romsey airfield is from the Romsey town, but it's always a good idea if you're flying next to, in close proximity to a CTAF, and like I said, or the definition of in vicinity, it means basically 10 miles. That's what in the vicinity. If you ever see, in the vicinity of an aerodrome, it means 10 miles. Okay, so that's basically it. It's only a short one today, only 20 minutes. But I hope that sort of clears up many of the questions that people will ask about CTAFs. And I guess that's about all. Okay, thanks. Well done, Luke.